Hey everyone, I'm your host, Robbie Strazynski, and thanks so much for joining us on episode number 17 of CardsChat, the friendliest poker podcast in town. On this episode, we have the pleasure of welcoming veteran poker broadcaster and commentator, David Tuchman. Longtime poker fans are, of course, familiar with David's voice and have certainly heard him on one broadcast or another over the years, but perhaps they don't know too much about David beyond the mic. How did he get into the game? How did he hone his craft? What are his favorite gigs? We'll be talking about all that and much more over the next hour. So David, welcome to CardsChat. Really happy to be speaking with you again.
I'm happy to. Robbie, I'm a little bit upset right out of the gate. I was told this was going to be episode 9, not episode 17. 9 is a lucky number. I don't like 17. I don't know. I'm going to have to talk to my agent about this, but I guess we're here, so we'll do it.
We are. And 17 is a prime number. You're a prime kind of guy. And I'm sure you have Amazon Prime, so
that's a good comeback. Okay.
We'll roll with it. We got to try. Well, David, I feel like you've kind of been around forever in the poker world, but let's try to sort of get a little bit of a timeline. When did you first get introduced to the game? And I think there was also a time where you played professionally, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, for sure. First introduced to the game was when I was a kid. You know, my family played, like many people, the story. You know, my grandfather played, my dad played. I remember going to, there was a place, many people are familiar with the movie Dirty Dancing. Well, in New York, we kind of did the same thing. We would, every Christmas time, I would play a hockey tournament, and then we would go up to a place called It was in the Catskills. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I'm totally blanking on it. Anyway, it was up in the Catskills, and we would go up there very much like Dirty Dancing. And there was skiing there, there was ice skating there were dancing, it was fun, it was whatever. And it was where we spent basically our New Year's each and every year for a handful of years. And my dad would play poker. And I would sit behind him and I'd watch him play stud. He'd play 10-20 stud. At the time, I had no idea. I just saw a lot of bills going in. But now when I look back on it, I know based on, you know, obviously my knowledge of the game, I was like, clearly they were playing 10-20, you know, limit stud. And that was one of my first experiences watching the game and then also playing, because my dad would give us, all the dads would give their kids a roll of quarters, because right next to the poker room, there was a huge arcade. Nice. And at night, just to kind of keep the kids out of like the parents' hair so they could do their thing, we would play in the arcade. I'll date myself because I played ungodly amount of hours of Tron back in the day. Loved that game. Tron was awesome. Anyway, but we'd get a $10 roll of quarters and everybody else would. And I quickly realized, I was like, I can win their quarters too. So we started playing poker with the quarters. Amazing. You know, emulating our parents, our dads. And so that was like, and I was young and I just got the bug. And then my dad was more of a gin player outside of that, but he would still play poker once in a while. They'd have a poker game at home. And I always loved it because my mom would bring home snacks. Like that was the time we'd have candy and snacks in the house because she'd buy them for the guys. Right. So I loved that. But also I would kind of sneak in the kitchen and I'd watch them play for a little bit. Wow. My mom would yell at me like, "Get out. What are you doing? Leave him alone." And my dad would be like, "It's fine. You can watch for a minute." Awesome. So that was it. I mean, I'd watch my dad play and I got the bug and I loved the game. And, you know, I played with my buddies. You know, we played home games. Hold'em really wasn't a thing. Like community card games wasn't really a thing. We just played a bunch of like dealer's choice games like Follow the Queen and Midnight Baseball and Black Mariah and all these different games that were just kind of, you think right on the fly. Yep. And that was, so I mean, I just always loved the game. And I remember, you know, driving into Atlantic City before I was even 21 just so I could play. And I would play stud, limit and stuff. And then I moved to LA, and if you like poker and you're in LA, it's not hard to find it. Right. And you were a professional as well at some point. Yeah. In 2000. So I played poker. I was out here and I was writing and I was acting, and I found some success in those fields. And I kind of was like, I was over being like a bartender and a waiter as well. Because most actors are like bartenders and waiters. There was no Uber back then. So you couldn't, which is a perfect job for an actor. Anyway, right. But I was like, man, I like playing poker. And then I found out about this thing called being a prop. Ah, okay. I didn't know what it was. I was like, okay, but I found out about it. I was like, that's amazing. So I eventually Robert Turner, Chip Burner Turner, I became friends with him at the Bicycle Casino, and this was 2003. And I filled out the application and I was trying to become a prop, and he kept saying, next month. And I was like, oh man, when's it going to happen? And eventually in January, I got the call, and eventually in January of 2004, I started propping at the Bike.
Awesome.
I don't think props a professional poker player. I kind of think it's an apprentice because you're getting paid. But it was a really kind of good segue into, like, I had to learn how to play all different games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we played Limit Hold'em, 08, all the games in horse. And when No Limit came in, we started playing that as well. But I had to play in bad games because when the games were good, the props weren't in the games.
Right.
So I had to play in a lot of bad games. Sometimes the games were, 5-handed with a maniac. Sometimes they were 9-handed and they were, complete nit fests.
Yeah.
So that kind of helped me hone my skills. And, I propped for, almost like probably 20 months, I would say. And I think it really gave me a good kind of like work for like my game going forward. I learned a lot about it. I met a lot of poker players. I learned about the world a little bit. There are a few people that were older than me that took me under their wing. And from there, then I was a professional poker player for years.
Nice. Well, for those who are a little unfamiliar with the idea of propping, how exactly does that work? You sort of show up and they're like, go ahead and start this game, or like, do they force you to play for specific stakes?
Well, yeah, I mean, a casino makes a lot of money for every table. People don't realize that for every table that is open, if a table is open 24/7, 365 days a year, probably going to make the casino somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 million. So it really makes a lot of sense to keep those tables going. Now, if you're a casino, if you can pay people to start games and to keep games going when they're slow, it helps out. Anybody who's been to the Commerce, if you walk into the Commerce, it's not the nicest casino in the world. I mean, it's kind of a warehouse, but it's the most crowded, and kind of like one of those weird things where it's like, well, it's the most crowded because it has the action. Well, why does it have the action? Because it's more, the chicken before the egg thing. And it's
a
like
sea of poker tables. It's a LA area. It's
yeah,
amazing.
and it just feeds upon itself. If you've never been there, you just walk in, you're like, wow. And it's the first casino I played at in LA.
Nice.
But so prop basically keeps that going. And if somebody knows there's always going to be a game at 11 in the morning on a Tuesday,
right,
they're more likely to show up at 11 in the morning on a Tuesday. And then once those games going, then other people come, and then it kind of feeds upon itself. And that's the game plan. At the end of the day, the casino is essentially paying you to play poker with your money.
Right.
The vast majority of props that are hired quit within weeks. In fact, when we started, we used to joke about this. When I first got hired and I started there, the other props were like friendly to me, but not that much. And I was like, what's going on? They were like, well, most props either burn out or just can't hack it. It's one thing to play 10, 12 hours a week, but
right,
you're playing 40 hours a week. If you're not a good poker player and you have weaknesses over that sample size, it's going to get exposed and you're going to go broke.
Yep.
And the money you get, the paycheck you get, is not going to cover your losses.
Right.
So you see a lot of people come and go and come and go and come and go. In fact, it was probably 8 months after I got hired, Bart Hansen got hired.
Oh, sure.
And one of my best friends. And the first month and a half, I was kind of a jerk to him. I was being me, but I was just like, you're probably not going to stick around. He wasn't a very good limit player, to be honest. And I was like, yeah, you're not going to be here.
Wow.
But that's basically what they do. I mean, their attitude is, listen, if I can pay three props $30 an hour each, but the table is going to make me $175 an hour,
right,
they're making money on it.
Easy business decision for sure.
Yeah, I think especially for card rooms that aren't like Commerce.
Right, of course. Yeah, if you need the
which is
liquidity.
most card rooms.
Right. Well, Commerce, of course, has the whole LA metropolitan area and, the biggest card room in the world. So it's got a lot going for it. As much
I
as
will
you're
tell you
known
though, for people, anybody out there, if you want to be a prop, it's a great way to kind of get into the business, because if you're a poker player, try and get a loan and being a poker player. If you're a prop, I mean, first of all, you get health care, you get a paycheck.
Yep.
It's just, there is some sort of a security blanket there, which is quite nice.
Right.
Some of the benefits of being a professional poker player are taken away from you as a prop. The huge benefits of professional poker players, the flexibility to work when you want to work, play in the games you want to play in, though that's not for props.
Right. Well, look, as much as you're known for playing that you've done, of course, you're even more widely known for your broadcasting career. How did that sort of get started in poker?
At the bike. So, yeah, I was actually, I was propping there, and Rick Cloward, Kelly O'Hara, and Evelyn Duhart started a show called Live at the Bike, which I feel like most people are probably familiar with at this point.
Yep.
And Robert Turner, Chip Turner, thought I'd be good for it. He knew I was an actor, and I was, I'd been in front of the camera many times, and I had a journalism background, and he's like, I think you'd be good at this. You know poker. And I was like, okay. Bart, by the way, he started with it as well. He actually went to Syracuse and studied. This is what he wanted.
Okay.
And he was like gung ho. He's like, yeah, I want to do it. I was like, okay. I was like, is this going to, I was like, is this going to hurt my hourly? Because I couldn't play poker when I was in the booth, and I was making money. I mean, think about it. Like, if I'm getting paid $35 an hour from the casino, and I'm making another $40 an hour playing poker, I'm making $75 an hour. That's decent money.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I was just thinking, I'm like, well, am I going to, but I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And that was, we had the meetings for it in late 2004. And then January of 2005, the show started. And it was Bart, myself, and probably 3 other commentators that were kind of brought on board to do it. All of us. I mean, we were commentating in a closet,
right?
Like literally, like a maintenance closet. I mean, the production value was non-existent, but the show kind of got a cult following.
This is also 2004-5. This is relatively early.
Like live streaming was live streaming was in its infancy.
Mm-hmm.
And most people barely had the bandwidth to even deal with it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So people loved it though, and they tried to they tried to go off the popularity of like WPT, and we're like, let's do it. The first thing out there. So it kind of we got a following in Europe.
Wow.
And it was pretty exciting because very quickly Bart and I kind of became the mainstay commentators, and the rest of them kind of, and then the Poker Channel in Europe decided they wanted to take the Live at the Bike shows, which were 3-hour-long shows. At one point, they were 3 hours, 4 hours, and they wanted to edit them down.
Okay.
And show them on their channel.
Right.
Okay. Well, they suddenly needed Bart and I to go to a voiceover studio in LA because they needed the ins and outs from commercials. Because suddenly it was, it was a 3-hour show, but they were editing it down and they had commercials. So it was, we had to do ins and outs. And so we learned a lot about like the voiceover world there doing this. We were really lucky in the sense that, I was really lucky in the sense that I got to learn a lot about broadcasting and voiceover work without having a very big, telescope on me, microscope on me, either way you want to say it. It was just, nobody watched the show in the beginning. So it was kind of like, I could suck, I could be terrible, and it didn't matter.
Right.
So that was pretty cool. But the Poker Channel thing, that was a huge break for me because they took our shows and suddenly we're on TV in Europe, and that suddenly opened up a whole new world to me.
For sure. I know that, you mentioned already that you had gone to LA to try and do acting. I know in college you studied biology, if I'm not mistaken.
I studied biology, philosophy, and journalism.
Right. So before sort of poker, lured you in and gave you these opportunities, what did you think, David Tuchman was going to do?
I didn't I didn't know. I didn't know. I remember, I don't know. I remember having talks with my mom after college. I was like, she's like, what are you going to do? I was like, I don't know. So I remember sitting down with my mom. My mom gave me great advice. I sat down with her and she goes, okay, just take a piece of paper. This is not the piece of paper.
Right.
That'd be pretty cool if I still had it. She said, write down everything you love doing. So I did that. So then she said, okay, I wrote down like, I don't know, 18 things that I love doing. And she said, okay, let's see what jobs can come out of those. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like I wrote hockey and she said, okay, let's see all the things you can do around hockey, hockey coach, all the different things, whatever. Working for a hockey team,
Okay.
All these. And so basically my mom gave me the advice of, okay, you live once, figure out what you love, that's not hard.
Right.
And then try to see if you can make a living doing it.
That's great advice. I love it.
Yeah. And I just, at the time, broadcasting was not, I enjoyed journalism. I wrote for my college paper. So I really like writing and I like journalism, but broadcast journalism wasn't really a thought. In fact, my brother-in-law went to Syracuse, the School of Newhouse, which is, renowned for their broadcasting. And that's what he wanted. He decided not to pursue that because I think he got a job offer for like $11,000 to live in Iowa. And my sister was like, I'm not moving to Iowa. So he became
not for $11,000, right?
That was basically, she's like, you want me to go to, but that was that world. If you wanted to make it, if you weren't an athlete and you wanted to make it as the broadcaster, the world was basically pay your dues in like single A baseball or ECHL if you're a hockey guy, whatever. I mean, the bottom of the bottom, and pay your dues, make no money, work your way up. And that was kind of the thing. So I never had an idea like broadcasting. I was like, yeah, I was athletic, but I'm not a professional athlete. So I was like, that path's not for me. I was like, but I had no idea.
Well, thankfully, things seem to have worked out just fine. And worst comes to worst, you can always just go back and play. I know you still play plenty of mixed games, decent stakes, like that. That's always available to you. I'm curious, actually, do you have any goals as a player, like, run up the bankroll to 6-7 figures, something like that, playing the huge tournament someday? Or it's just like, I'm cool, I'm comfortable where I'm at?
No, I've always had the I've always had the dream. I'm a very confident person, and I might be naive in this regard, and I might be stupid. I don't know, but I'm a really confident person, and I genuinely believe that. And I thought this for a while. I think like if I took like a year and I played like the tournament circuit, I feel like I do well. When I play tournaments, I seem to find success doing it. Whether it be cashing in the main event or I played a World Series of Poker circuit event in LA. I played like 7 tournaments a year. I came in second place in one of them, and ridiculously small sample size.
Right, of course.
But I feel like I would do pretty well if I played tournaments, and I love cash games. I would love that, but that would be bittersweet because that would mean that I wouldn't be commentating. So I don't. And then honestly, with, you're a family guy, I'm a family guy. It's just, you got to pick and choose when you're going to travel.
Yeah.
And I already travel so much normally, obviously 2020 being the exception. I already travel so much for work normally that taking time to then go play tournaments too.
Sure.
It's really difficult. I have 2 young boys and, and frankly, I love being around them and I love being around my wife and I want to be my family. So, playing tournaments is something that's going to have to probably wait. I don't know. But I love playing them. I love playing the main event. I look forward to it every year when I get a chance to play it. When I go on these 888 poker stops, I am so jealous because the buy-ins are so good. Like it's like 1,100 pounds or 888 pounds or euros, whatever it is. And I'm like, it's a really good price point. The quality of player is so mediocre. And frankly, I want to show up all the 888 poker pros.
Yeah.
I want to be like, yep, that's right. We did it. But I feel like I'm like, I'm jealous in some regards. Like, I love my job. Don't take me wrong. I love doing what I do. But there are days, listen, if I was only a player, that wouldn't be good. If I was only a commentator, that wouldn't be good.
It's good
so
to
when
have
I'm
the
in
balance.
LA, when I'm in LA, I play a lot of poker. Normally.
What's your favorite room?
I mean, it used to be the Bike. It's going to be the Hustler. I've got exciting news for you. So Hustler. I don't know if you know Ryan Feldman, formerly of Live at the Bike. So Ryan Feldman and an investor and the Hustler Casino are partnering up to do a Hustler Casino live.
Nice.
So it's going to be, similar to Live at the Bike, but according to Ryan, better production value. He's going to bring everything that he brought to Live at the Bike, bring there. Anyway, I'm pretty excited because I'm going to be commentating there.
Woo.
And I did enjoy playing it. I did enjoy playing at Hustler. So, honestly, Hustler and the Bike are probably my two favorites in LA.
Nice. Well, I know that, again, this is exceptional types of times, and a lot of the rooms I know for sure I've seen at Commerce, they're building these outdoor playing areas. They've got the protections in place, stuff like that. But what's interesting, I'm pretty certain, they're investing a lot of money. I imagine those are going to sort of stay put in normal times as well, increase their square footage, that sort of thing. What do you think about playing poker outdoors?
Depends what the weather is.
That's LA.
I'm fine with playing outdoors. I'm fine with playing outdoors if it's comfortable.
Uh-huh. And in pandemic times with the...
No, I'm not going to casinos.
Okay.
I'm just... as much as I respect the casino's effort, and I understand it's a business, they're trying to stay, they got to make money. It's a business. They want to employ people. You got to keep.
Exactly.
I get it, and I respect that. I feel like, until we get the virus under control, and obviously a lot of people, kind of saw this happening, obviously the spike in the winter, and it's just like the risk. I'm always a big believer in risk versus reward.
Sure, all poker players are, for sure.
I'm a healthy guy, and I'm not necessarily worried if I get it, but I also don't want to I don't want to get it. I don't want to give it to my family.
Mm-hmm.
So Poco will be there. And Poco, listen, we're going to get this on. This too shall pass.
Yep.
This too shall pass. And when it does, Poco will still be there.
Indeed. When times are regular, who are some folks that you enjoy playing with the most because they're most friendly? There's people you like spending time with at the table.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, when you say friendly, do you mean like really bad players?
No. I mean, like, you like talking to them in the street.
Those guys are really friendly. It's funny, actually. So I was enjoying, we were having a monthly get-together game on Live at the Bike called Barry's Fish Fry. Maybe it'll end up happening at Hustler now. Hopefully it will. So Barry Woods, who is like a local businessman and a really fun guy. Anyway, he kind of got a bunch of fun guys to play poker together. Matt Salzberg was in the group, obviously, former WPT Player of the Year. Mac Verstandig, a lawyer, Vegas lawyer, who took on the Mike Postle case. He's in the game. So Mark Thompson, he was a weatherman and a poker player in the LA area.
Oh, I know Mark Thompson. I didn't know he played. I remember that from my LA days. Oh,
so there's just some LA guys, and it's not really any pros or anything. It's just a bunch of fun guys, and we just literally it was once a month. I had to miss it a few months because I would be traveling with 888. But it was one of those things that they had going for a while, and that was fun. I enjoy it. When you play poker professionally in LA and you play enough, there are times in my life I was playing 40, 50 hours a week. And, even now, even before COVID, I was probably playing 20 hours a week, say 3 sessions a week. There's a bunch of amazing people that you meet. There's a guy named Bo who was the keyboardist for my Morning Jacket, who's a great poker player and a really awesome guy. Love seeing him. And there's just a bunch of guys that you just you go to the poker room, you're like, hey, what's going on? So in many ways, that's one of the reasons why I love live poker. Walking in and being like, what's going on? seeing your old friend.
Yeah, I definitely feel the same way, and I'm sure everyone watching and listening feels the same way in the Cards Chat community too. One other place, one other place where you develop friendships is also within that broadcasting niche. At least on Twitter, I see you have a pretty friendly rapport with your fellow broadcasting legends. I imagine that translates to real life and in person too. I wonder though, is there any sort of like competitiveness amongst you guys, like who's going to get the next gig or something like that? Are you kind of like, each in your own little space?
Oh, by the way, before I answer that, that's what I know. Another place I actually love playing is Asper's.
Oh, in London.
Because we go twice a year, every year at 888, I've gotten to know the regulars, and because there aren't that many big games there, and every time I'm in town, there's always there's always the biggest game, and I always play in that one.
Nice.
So I know those guys, and some of those guys actually come out to LA during like the peak seasons of poker out here. So I see those guys. A couple of really great guys that I'm like, hey, what's going on? And we hug it out. It's great.
That's wonderful. Well, that's good. I got to play there next time I go to England, hopefully.
It's a great room. For sure. Anyway, okay, here it is. Are we competitive? No, I don't think we're competitive because we genuinely support each other.
Yeah.
Are we all kind of like hammering for the same jobs though? Yeah. In many ways we are, So there's that too. Like I love Ali Najad. I think he does an amazing job, right? I love Lon McCarran. But the people that do the people that host, the play-by-play guys, those are, especially for poker, those are my direct competition.
Right.
So, I think we're all obviously aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
I maybe it's a matter of like we're all kind of confident in our own skin.
For sure.
And we've been able to do okay. Like I'm really good friends with Stapes.
Mm-hmm.
And Ali and I, when I go to Vegas, Ali and I hang out. We have drinks and we eat food. Yeah. And I love him. And I mean, one of my favorite dinners ever was me, Ali Najad, Lon McCarran at Maury's house.
Oh, wow.
And that was wonderful. Just like it was literally like we're all telling stories, and Lon's telling stories about how he got into it, and Ollie's telling stories, and Maury's sitting there, and it was three play-by-play guys talking to Maury, and I guess what's been good, the fact that we've all been able to get work and have enough work to eat food.
Yeah.
So maybe that helps. But I have a lot of respect for the people that do this work. I mean, Jeff Platt, who's come into the business and everything, and I think he does a great job. So it's kind of weird. Like, I mean, are we competitive? No. But are we aware of the fact that, like, we're all fighting for the same jobs? Yeah, kind of.
Mm-hmm. Well, like you said, it's nice that there's enough work to go around, that all you guys, have plenty to do, and
then there are companies out there. I mean, like, I love Nick Wealthall and stuff. And there are companies out there that are like, oh, and then they'll give newer people a chance because they want to spend less money. I respect that. I mean, I was that guy.
Yep.
I was that guy when I first got my first real chance when I did the $1 million cash game for Full Tilt.
Mm-hmm.
I got that because another very well-known commentator wanted more money.
Aha.
I took less and I got it.
There you go. Well, everyone has to start from somewhere. I mean, you've been doing this for a while, obviously. Is there someone or more than one person who you'd say is an influencer of your work, perhaps, outside of poker, and then someone who you've sort of learned from to hone your craft better?
Well, I watch everything Norman Chad does just to make sure that I know exactly what not to do. I mean, I feel like that's honestly for any broadcasters out there. I get a lot of people asking me all the time, "Can you give me advice?" Watch Norman Chad and do the opposite. You'll be fine. Okay, you'll have a long career. I try to honestly, in all seriousness, I try to grab a little bit for everybody.
Uh-huh.
I remember way back when I was working for Sky Sports covering the NFL, and there were games that would come overseas. Obviously, every year they would play them in England and in London. and Jim Nantz came over to call one of those games.
Wow.
And I had the opportunity
great
to
Jim
interview
Nantz.
Wow. Yeah, and I did a lot of research, so I could go in there really kind of prepared. And I had an hour with him to sit down with him.
Wow.
And we had 2 cameras. It was great. And I got so much from him. And I feel like whether I know somebody or not, I think there's a lot of people out there that I watch do what I do, and I learn from them. I mean, Brendan Burke, who is the play-by-play guy for the New York Islanders. Nobody knows who he is, but I do because I watch every hockey game. He's brilliant. He's young too, and he's up and coming. He'll be here for 30 years. Vince Scully, legend.
Of course.
You know what I mean? But I used to watch these guys and just be like, okay. I mean, once I started doing this back in 2005, and I was like, well, you know what? If I'm going to do it, I want to be good at it. So let me learn. Because at that time, I knew nothing. So I was like, if I'm going to do this, let me go back to school. Let me learn a little something. And let me start watching the people that are really, really good.
Right.
And see if I can hone my craft and get better. I don't want to emulate Vince Scully as if I could. But I don't want to be, I don't want to be Joe Buck. I don't want to be Vince Scully. I don't want to be Brendan Burke. I want to be David Tuchman.
Right.
But I can certainly learn from all of the greats that have done this.
That's a great answer. That's a fantastic answer. Well, speaking of great people who do it, obviously, we've mentioned, we've name checked, all the familiar names that we know from all of the great shows out there that we love as poker fans. In recent years, I would say, everyone kind of knows this, more and more professional poker players are putting on the headset and they're doing commentary as well. They're joining you guys in the booth. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think it follows what happens in other sports. I mean, if you watch pretty much any other major sport, you've got the broadcaster, the professional broadcaster, the guy who's theoretically gone to school and honed his craft and can kind of, what I like to say is keep the train on the tracks. And then they bring in ex-professional athletes that played that sport. Yeah. I mean, if you watch the Olympics, it's a professional broadcaster and somebody who won the gold medal 8 years ago. If you watch American football, the NFL, you usually you've got one guy, and then you've got, there's a reason why it's Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. Right. Because you need the expert in there. You want that person who not only knows what they're talking about and has been there, has the credibility from the audience that they go, yeah, this guy he's walked, a mile in these athletes' shoes. He knows what he's talking about, right? Right. So, I think poker just follows the other sports, and it makes a lot of sense to me. You know, why not have Lon? Why not have Antonio Esfandiari next to Lon? Makes sense. He's a professional poker player. Nick Schulman against next to Ali Najad. That's it makes a lot of sense to me.
So you wouldn't say, or like Maria Ho also, same thing. They get in the booth, and we're familiar with them as commentators now in a sense as well. But of course, they're primarily players. Does that worry you at all? Like say, well, maybe we're getting crowded out, and it'll just be players in the booth because they've got all the knowledge there, or are you like, no, our place is secure?
I mean, listen, I try not to. I'm not a worrying kind of guy. If there comes a point where people don't want to, hear me call a match anymore, then, I'll find something else. I'm like a cat. I'll land on my feet. I'm not worried about that. So, I mean, and I also feel like it's not in my control. Right. That said, I'm a big believer in I think a lot of people love Nick Schulman. And I think Nick Schulman is amazing. I've worked with him. I think he's great. I have all the respect in the world for him. Real smart. And a lot of people will be like, oh my God, we should put Nick Schulman and Phil Galfond together. And my attitude is when I hear that, my first thought is like those people genuinely, and it's not a slight on them. They just don't know. I personally wouldn't think that would work. Okay. Because again, my attitude is the Lon McCarrons of the world, the Ali Najads of the world, the Jeff Platts of the world, myself. Our job is to basically keep the train on the tracks. Mm-hmm. And what our job is to basically bring out the best in the Nick Schulmans and the Antonio Esfandiaris and the Maria Ho's, bring out the best in them, let us know what's going on. Tony Romo is amazing. And he gets all the publicity and all the hype, and he deserves it. He does a great job. But Jim Nantz does an amazing job of being kind of like, in a weird way, if you were making like cast a movie, like Jim Nance is the straight guy.
Right.
Ron McCarran is the straight guy. Jeff
Yep.
Platt's the straight guy. David Tuchman is the straight guy. You know what I mean? It's James Hardigan to Joe Stapleton.
Yep.
That same thing there. It's and I think that, to me, it's like the play-by-play guy does that job.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I mean, worried? No, I'm not worried. Like I said, if they want to do something else, they do something else. What am I going to do about it? I try not to worry about things I can't control.
Right. That's not just a great answer. It's a very insightful answer. Really hones in on what the purpose of the broadcaster is, and also the different types of broadcasters there are. I mean, obviously,
that's the thing.
Yeah.
I think people forget. I think people make the mistake, and they don't know. I mean, why would you know? You're not a broadcaster. People don't realize that, the reason why you have a broadcaster and a professional athlete, usually side by side, there's a reason for that. They have their roles.
Yep. Yeah, certainly dynamic. I mean, obviously, we all know that poker has gotten a lot tougher to play, especially since, 2003 and, since Black Friday as well. Like, just progressively, the more people playing, the more people are studying, it's gotten tougher. Has poker commentary evolved in any way, sort of in tandem?
I think it evolves along the same lines. Like we get better, I like to think.
Well, not just better. I'm telling you in terms of the things you want to talk about. So, for example, you're talking about starting live at the Bike in 2004 or 5. If you think back to those gigs and the types of things that you were discussing on air, the types of terms, perhaps, is that pretty much the same, like a consistency over the years, or has that, with people?
Thankfully, we finally got rid of the need to explain the rules of Hold'em to people.
Okay, really nice. Right.
We finally assumed that our audience understands. Okay, we don't need the rules anymore. Cool.
Okay.
So at least we got past that.
Right.
No, I don't know if it's changed that much.
Mm-hmm.
I think. I can't speak of everybody else. Like for me, I try to cater my commentary to who I believe my audience is, and my audience changes. I am going to commentate on a seniors event at the World Series of Poker differently than I'm going to commentate on the 50K Players Championship.
Right.
I'm going to try to bring out of my analyst, or the co-commentator, different things if I'm covering, a charity event that 888 Poker is putting on, as opposed to, the main event of the World Series where there's millions on the line. I mean, you just have to, I think it's kind of one of those weird things where read the room, know your audience.
Right.
Through the years, I feel like it's probably something I've been pretty good at in understanding who is watching.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are times where you really want to get analytical.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times where you got to pull it back and just be like, I love that vest he's wearing. You know what I mean?
Yep, I do.
And poker commentary is something I learned the hard way. Is you don't have to talk that much. People are probably listening to this going, wait, Tuchman doesn't talk that much? Hold on, of course he talks. But I feel like with poker commentary, sometimes less is more. Let it breathe. It's okay. But in many ways, poker commentary, I think, mirrors baseball, where there are just a lot of moments that are just boring.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to fill those spaces with stories and what's going on and where are we, and keep people somehow engaged.
Right.
And then there are moments, obviously, where the poker is so amazing, where you just kind of let the poker go. Let it speak for itself. It can do its job. I don't need you anymore.
Yeah, it's funny. You name-checked Vin Scully before, and what you said reminded me of a story that he had told. He was setting it up. This is, back in the radio days when you didn't have TV, and I forget exactly who was at bat. And then he was telling the story. It was the count. As the count went up, it's 2-1, and here's the pit. And then when the guy hit, it's a high fly ball. She is gone, and then he was silent for 30-something seconds. And radio listeners, you hear the crowd only. And that gives that perfect ambiance. You don't need to, it was just like you said, certainly, resonates, same type of thing there. How about now, David? It's interesting times. 2020 is the exception. How do you fill your time? What are you up to, in 2020?
I feel like 2020 is obviously a unique challenge for everybody in the world. I feel like everybody's unique challenge is very different. Each person has their own story.
Mm-hmm.
I have friends that are single and living by themselves, and I talk to them and they're so lonely and they are struggling. Mm. And I feel for them. And, we try to we'll go on Zoom and we'll play games and stuff and just try to give them some interaction. And I feel like everybody has their own thing. Some people lost their jobs. Some people are dealing with having COVID or their family's gotten whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And then you have my situation and then there are a lot of people who are like, so much time in my hands. We're not going out. I'm learning a language. I'm learning how to play guitar. I'm doing this. And then you have my situation, which is certainly not unique, but I imagine anybody who has young kids is probably in the same boat as me, where I actually have far less time than I ever had before in my life.
Wow.
I have no time. I wake up in the morning, my kids are awake.
Yep.
They're
How old are they
there.
now?
3 and 7.
Uh-huh.
They're always there. My 7-year-old is in second grade. He works from home. He studies. He's in school at home.
Yep.
My wife's a teacher. She teaches at home. My 3-year-old is not in daycare. He's home. I wake up in the morning. They're there. I love them to death. Okay, they're my life. I tell them all the time. I go, you two are the most important thing that ever happened to me. The best thing that ever happened in my life. Okay, they're always there. Where I'm used to. My 7-year-old goes to school. I take my 3-year-old to daycare, and I've got 4, 5, 6 hours to myself to do whatever I need to do, whether it be work or go for a hike or whatever it is.
Right.
And then 3:00, I'd go pick up my 7-year-old from school, and I'd hang out with him in the afternoon, and we'd have a family time. That's gone now. So it's to get time to yourself. And I'm sure that any of your listeners and viewers who have kids, young kids especially, can probably relate to this. It's just, like I said, I just feel like 2020 is a unique challenge for everybody for different reasons.
Yeah.
And for us, it's just a matter of what are you going to do with all this time? I'm like, what time? Like, what time? We're going to have this conversation, right? I'm going to go to bed. Okay, because it's late for here. I'm going to wake up in the morning to my 3-year-old climbing on me, undoubtedly. Yeah. Because my wife and my 7-year-old will be downstairs. My 3-year-old have already woken up. Uh-huh. And at 7 a.m, my wife will tell the 3-year-old, go upstairs and wake daddy. And he will climb on me, and he'll be the sweetest, cutest thing in the world. And yeah.
Groundhog Day. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. It's just like, okay, what do you want to do today? Today we'll go for a hike. And that's the thing. It's like, I used to love, with my 7-year-old. Cheers, everybody. Cheers. With my 7-year-old, when he was in daycare, he was only in daycare 3 days a week, and we used to go on due days. So 2 days a week, I would take him, we'd go to the diner, we'd get some breakfast, we'd go to the zoo, we'd go to the museum, we'd go to the beach, we live in LA, so it's great. All these different, we'd go for a hike. Well, the problem now is here, nothing's open.
Right.
So it truly is like Groundhog Day. It's like, okay, I'll wake up tomorrow with my kid. I think maybe we'll go for a hike. Maybe we'll go for a bike ride.
Yep. I hear that. And like you said, everything you said kind of resonates with me. Like you said, I'm a family man. I got the kids. I know exactly what it's like, and certainly keeping busy. And I do want to also specifically say thank you. I know it's late. It's almost midnight by you. This is one of the rare interviews I do in my morning here in Israel. So I appreciate it over there in LA and Pacific time zone. It's good stuff. I did want to ask my last question before we get to the community questions then. This is sort of your you time, late at night. And I have the same thing, late night is, it's all quiet in the house. So, after 2020 comes 2021. Eventually, this thing is going to end. I hope poker is going to come roaring back, that sort of thing. And I know a lot of players, they're, those who are refraining from live play, maybe not necessarily playing online, they're taking this time and they're studying and they're honing their craft. They're going to come back with a vengeance. Is there anything that you're doing during this time to sort of, not necessarily hone your craft, whatever, but anything that you're sort of taking, your you time and like, I'm going to be better at this, or I want to make sure I get this, I'm ready for it come 2021, when things get back to normal, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. I try to do this even when I'm not, even before 2020. For me, Jason Kuhn said something to me many, many years ago when he said, if you didn't think you sucked 6 months ago, you're not working hard enough. And, it's probably a bit of hyperbole, but it rings true, and it certainly understand what the point is. If you're not constantly working on your game, then yeah, you're standing still and everybody's passing you. So I do try to work on my game. I'm one of the pros over at crushlivepoker.com, but I'm also kind of a customer there. I watch all the videos and I listen to the podcasts and I go to the forum and I work on my game there. I have a lot of respect for what Phil Galfond has done over at Run It Once Poker. I had the privilege of commentating on the Galfond Challenge, the first one versus Benny Vidi.
Right.
And, Phil and I got close, and I got to know a lot of people that Run It Once, and I ended up getting a subscription to their stuff. So I watch a lot of the Run It Once videos as well.
Nice.
So, basically, yeah, this is, you said it, this is my me time. Like, my wife will fall asleep watching a show and my kids are sleeping. So like, I'll get a couple of hours every night where I can kind of like, okay, let me get some work done. Maybe I get some poker studying done, whatever it might be. But I think, if you're not putting the work in right now, it seems kind of silly. Like, why not?
Right.
What's your excuse right now?
Yep.
I just feel like, it's one of those things where like poker's hard. And no matter how good you are, no matter how good your instincts are, there are a lot of people out there that are really good at this game. And if you want to stay on top of it, or even if you just want to do it for fun, it makes a lot of sense to like watch a video here or there and kind of like just continue work on your game.
Nice.
Well,
makes
I'm
sense.
working on game. Yes.
Well, I appreciate, and I'm sure the audience, of course, appreciates that you're giving of your you time when you're not studying and kindly granted this interview. To. We appreciate it.
Oh,
and to show
as a commentator also, I would say, as a commentator also, I like to stay on top of things. Uh-huh. So like when I was covering the Galfond Challenge and I was covering the PLO,
right?
It's heads up PLO. I have no experience in heads up PLO, but I was like, oh wow, I got to learn this. So I was like, if I'm going to commentate on something, I want to have some knowledge about it. So I do try to stay on top of it as well. Yeah. I feel like as the game evolves, if I don't, then I become a dinosaur.
Right. Well, totally makes sense. Well, as mentioned, the community appreciates, and to show our appreciation, we've got community members who were kind enough to submit some questions in the forums. Our first question comes from Acid Burn FX, and he asked, David, what is your dream job?
My dream job would be, so I am a hockey fanatic. I grew up playing the game. I played a hockey game literally before this interview,
right?
Before this conversation. I love the game. My kid plays the game. My dream job, if I could like do anything, would probably be like calling the Olympics, hockey in the Olympics.
Ooh,
would be
nice.
like absolute dream job. And then like obviously like the Stanley Cup playoffs and the Stanley Cup finals. But if I had to pick one thing for me, it would be like U.S. Hockey Olympics.
Do you believe in miracles?
Do you believe in miracles?
Nice. Second question from Acid Burn FX. What are your greatest pleasures in life?
My boys. It's not even, that's easy now. Those are my absolute joys. I always knew that I would love being a father, and it has surpassed my wildest positive expectations. They are, like I said earlier, I give my 7-year-old a kiss goodnight and I look at him and I go, you are the best thing that ever happened to me. Oh. And there's not a shred of exaggeration when I say that to him. They changed my life in so many ways, and I've enhanced it in almost every single way.
That's so beautiful.
I
I'm
love
just so tired. I love it. It's so great. And like you say, also when when your 3-year-old climbs in, wakes you up in the morning, and and they're always there. That is something. As
I
parents,
could do without that.
Yeah, well, as I say, I missed the chance to miss them, but right,
That's it.
right. But I will say, I do think at some point we'll all, as whoever's parents out there, will look back at this very, very unique time in history and say, at least we got to spend some really good quality time with family, even though they were jumping all over us and stuff. So that was really sweet. From Shells, who's very kindly always submits some questions in the forums. Well, she asked something that we sort of covered, but she says, as far as the variants that you were introduced to, I'll kind of like twist it a little bit here. Which is your favorite poker variant to play?
Okay, so I was introduced to stud, and we played, and growing up, I played many variants of stud, whether it was like follow the queen, and we played a lot of those kind of things where 2 cards down and then wild cards, all things like that. But my favorite variant is actually from that, which is stud 8 or better. When I moved to LA, I was acting. I just moved here. I was young, and I was acting, and I was waiting tables and bartending. And after I would make money bartending, I would go to Commerce with my $80 in my hand because I just want it. I just earned it, and I would play 3-6 stud 8 or better at the Commerce.
Hardcore.
And I would think, and I would see the 2040 game there, and I'd be like, if I could build this up, I'm gonna go take a shot.
Huh?
I'm gonna go take my shot.
I've got to ask, and it's not one of the community questions here, but as you progressed, or like, did you ever sort of like rail those games and say, man, this is really a genuinely tougher game than the 3-6? Or did you feel that when you joined it the first time?
I took my shots in that game. It's definitely a tougher game. I mean, there's no doubt. The 3-6 game was like, for lack of a better word, filled with morons.
Not even the mediocre players.
Like,
huh?
I mean, the 3-6 game was just like, the 3-6 game was literally like, every hand was like, it was 6 ways to like 6th Street.
Of course.
This is stud 8. Okay.
Yes.
It's 6. When you're playing 2040, most hands are like 3 ways.
Yep.
Heads up or 3 ways. And this was like, if you're playing in a game where it's 6 ways to 5th and 6th Street, it's a good game.
Yep.
That means a lot of people in there that shouldn't be in there.
Sure.
So the 3-6 game was terrible. The 2040 game, you had some players in there that knew what they're doing. So without a doubt, it was definitely a tougher game.
Cool.
Well, and at the time, I had a lot of learning to do.
Right. You mentioned all the acting that you've done. Also from Shells here, given your acting experience, which role was your favorite?
Oh, my favorite role. Gosh.
Great question. Thank you, Shells.
No, it's a really good question because I'm kind of proud of my acting background because I had enough success in acting where if you're an actor, there's an actors union called SAG and AFTRA. They've since merged, but to get healthcare, SAG healthcare is like legendary. It's amazing. But to get healthcare, you have to make a certain amount of money, and there's always kind of this stigma where it's like if you can make it as an actor, that means you made enough money to get healthcare. Uh-huh. And I did that for 2 years.
Nice.
So I was really kind of proud of that. I got SAG healthcare for 2 years.
Okay.
Which was pretty awesome. I was like, all right, cool.
The Screen Actors Guild, for those who don't know.
Yeah, Screen Actors Guild, right. And the AFTRA is like radio and television generally speaking. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm actually, I'm a union member of both those. My favorite role, gosh. Honestly, my favorite role is probably like a play I did or something like that, simply because it's like all the parts I had in Hollywood were also like pretty small. Mm-hmm. Like I was in Beverly Hills 90210, but I had like 2 lines. I got in a fight with Jason Priestley.
Okay.
If anybody remembers 90210 from back in the day,
he's like, give me the keys. Give me the keys. He would always drive everyone else's car, right?
Right. But like I was in Party of 5. I was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I'm still getting residual checks from these places. By the way.
Saved by the Bell. I remember you had a cameo there.
I was in Saved by the Bell. I'm trying to think what else I did. One of my favorite filming moments was kind of disappointing. So I filmed for a week with Wolfgang Peterson, the movie Perfect Storm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I played a Coast Guard member. We filmed it up at Point Magoo, and I filmed for a week with Wolfgang. And I had I'd probably like 12 lines.
Okay.
Not a big role, but like big enough. And we filmed for a week, and I was and they cut the entire section.
Oh, what does that feel like? I mean, you put in your effort and your time and everything.
That was devastating. It wasn't so devastating for me as much as I was devastated because Perfect Storm was like a legit huge film.
Sure.
I mean, Wahlberg's in it, Clooney's in it.
Yeah.
My parents were gonna go see it in the movie theater, and I was probably on it for I probably would have had 3 minutes of screen time.
Mm-hmm.
This wasn't 3 seconds. I had a legit role.
Yeah.
And I probably would have been on the screen for 3 minutes, And my mom would have gone to the movie theater with her friends.
That's my boy.
Right. And seen me in a movie. So that was that was gutting. It was I knew it was a chance, but I was because it was a long movie. So I was it's going to get cut. It's going to get cut. But I remember when I got that part, it was pretty amazing. I read the book, and then I got the script, and I read it, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And we filmed up at the base. And I was Point Magoo, and I was that was a great experience. So probably my favorite thing I ever acted in, though, I'll tell you, I was a junior in high school, and I played George Gibbs in Our Town.
Mm.
And great play, by the way, if anybody's not familiar with it. But the director of that play, and I still remember June Moffat was the director of the play, my high school theater director. It was the last play she directed before she passed away.
Oh.
And it was really touching because we were all so close to her.
Mm-hmm.
And I was I had one of the bigger roles in the play, and it was, I still remember, I remember her and I remember the time, and it was amazing. So.
I certainly answered that question. It's nice to, go through all those wonderful memories. Nice to have all those memories to go through. It's
yeah.
That's good stuff. Last question from Shells. Then we got one more before we wrap it up.
Shell is a beast. You should hire Shell.
Good
You should be on payroll.
Good stuff, right? We saved the best for last.
Yeah.
Right? It's where was this? What is your most memorable broadcasting gig?
Memorable broadcasting gig. I'm trying to think. I've covered the NFL and I've covered NASCAR. I've covered some Daytona 500s, which were amazing. That was really cool. Covering the NFL is just so much fun. I'm watching American football and I'm getting paid to talk about the game, and I love it was so much fun. And I did it for many years for Sky, and that was a lot of fun. I'll say my most memorable experience actually was when Todd Brunson was heads up for the Stud 8 bracelet many, many years ago. And Doyle Brunson, who very rarely shows up at Rio now, came to cheer on his son. Not only came to cheer him on, but came in the booth with me. And I commentated on the final table of the Stud 8 event that Todd Brunson was at, and Doyle was in the booth with me.
Wow.
And what was so cool about that moment was that, we all have different memories or thoughts of Doyle Brunson, and what like I read Super System when I was 28 years old, whatever it might have been. And for me, I got to see Doyle Brunson, the dad, because he was just a dad there. He was in the booth with me, and I'm sitting here, and he's sitting right next to me, and I'm sitting there, and he's just going, and he's going, Todd's making a play, and he goes, "Urgh," and he's just fist pumping, and he's going, and I was and this was before I was a dad.
Right.
And I was this is awesome. Because how often do you get arguably the biggest name in poker in the commentary booth commentating on his son?
Yeah.
And cheering his son on. So it was pretty cool.
Oh, that's you got me hooked right there. I was oh my God, I'm there.
I don't know if it exists. I don't know where that is. That
my
footage.
goodness.
I wish I had it because it was just so cool.
All right. Well, of course, both the Doyle and Todd are Poker Hall of Famers. So what a moment. That's fantastic. Great question and amazing answer. Our final question for today for this episode is from Antonis32123. So thank you for this question, Antonis. What is the thing that you like most when you play live poker, and the thing that makes you most uncomfortable when playing live poker?
Okay, well, I'll answer the second part first. So
Sure.
I want to leave it on a positive. The thing that makes me most uncomfortable or angry is when I see people angling other people.
Mm.
I feel like anybody who plays poker and is experienced with the game, it's our responsibility to protect the inexperienced. The game, this great game that we have is precious and delicate in some ways. And people try this game, and if you've ever had the experience of going to a poker room, can you imagine if you went to the poker room and the first time you went there, you got angled, you wouldn't play again. And I feel like part of my duty as a poker player is to protect those. So I really get upset if I'm sitting at some place, sitting at a table, and I'm watching that. There was a time I was at Hustler a couple of years ago where a guy he would play this game where he'd get his card and he would tell everybody, hey, I haven't looked at my cards. I bet you one of these is a jack. And people would continue betting him.
Aye.
And he obviously had looked,
Yeah.
And so I just called him out.
Yeah.
Called him out, told the floor man, I said, get this guy. To me, it's just, there's no room for it. So yeah, it makes me uncomfortable. It makes me angry.
Okay.
I don't like angles. I don't like I said, this is a game that, obviously it's been very good to me and I try to give back to it, but it's just a game where I feel like the lifeblood of the game is bring new people in. People ask me all the time, like, hey, would you teach your son this game? And I go, why wouldn't I? I go, I love it. I love poker. I go, not only that, I go, it teaches you so many great life skills. So why would I not teach my son something that I'm so passionate about, But so that makes me angry. What was the positive part of the question again?
And what do you like most about live poker?
People. I like people. I like talking. I like having fun. It's a social game. Have a good time. Going there and hanging out with a bunch of people and competing and trying to outwit each other, but telling stories and the social aspect of the game to me is amazing. I mean, listen, I think online poker should be legal. I don't think there's no reason for online poker not to be legal. And I think online poker is fantastic. And I love the idea of like sitting in my pajamas and playing poker on my couch. That's great. But nothing will replace going to a casino, seeing people, meeting people, talking to different people, socializing. That's how we play.
That's the stone cold nuts, man. That's good stuff.
Right.
And hopefully that'll come back soon. And I want to make sure I thank all of the wonderful folks in the forum, in the CardsChat community who sent in questions. Just a reminder to all of our listeners and everyone watching, we'd love to see you submit your questions for our future podcast guests. There is a dedicated thread there. We announce who the guest is before they appear, so it gives you guys plenty of opportunities to send in your questions. And of course, please be sure to give us a good review on iTunes and spread the word via your social media channels if you like the show. David, before we check out, is there anything else you'd like to tell our listeners before we let you go?
I don't think so. I guess before. This too shall pass. We're going to get through this, okay? And, the old saying of what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. I do believe that. And, you and I touched on this earlier, right before you press the record button, and I say, poker players, we learn about perspective, and keeping things in perspective is really important, and even so important now. I mean, we're at as a poker player, sometimes we think the world is coming to an end when we lose with our ace king versus somebody ace queen. You go, okay, keep it in perspective, right? To me, 2020 is, like I said, it's a challenge for everybody for many different reasons. And I wish everybody well. We'll get through this. And if you see me at any event, whether it's Vegas, come say hi. I will not bite you, I promise. I am friendly. Come say hi. I'll even buy you a beer or your beverage of choice if you're like Robbie Strazynski and you don't like beer.
Confirm. Definitely one of the friendliest guys. Definitely one of the friendliest guys in poker. David, thank you so much. That's David Tuchman, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Cards Chat. I'm Robbie Strazynski. You can follow me on Twitter at CardPlayerLife. I wish you all a wonderful day.